we're not confused. Okay. So the difference with this journey, this 6-week journey, is that this is all about how do I hatch a plan, right? How do I make decisions in my life that are good? How do I know when I'm aligned with my purpose, with my the thing that I was put on this planet to do, right? And then how do I put that into action, right? So this, the idea of, if let's say the focus of the previous journey was, let me get a deeper look at myself. Now the focus of this journey is going to be, let me learn how to focus on the goals I have, the aims I have, the dreams that I have. So every week's exercise is actually going to start putting us more and more towards that. I don't actually want you to have that figured out. I'm glad that none of you do. None of you came and said, hey, I want to manifest this. Fantastic. This is the best case scenario for me, because you're open to everything. And every week you really are going to discover something new as we go through with these compositions. But this is a little bit more, I want to say, psychology inspired now, this series, than it is spirituality based, right? So this is going to give us a little bit of a science that you can take away out of even this journey. So the things that you will learn through this, you can actually redo these exercises as necessary, right? The journeys that I'm doing with you guys, whether we're doing them live or we're doing them on Evergreen, it doesn't matter. This is literally, exactly like Jessica said, the result of my own healing journey, right? This is the result of, this is what came out of me in COVID. Because at the time that COVID hit, I was a highly functioning ball of anxiety, right? So I was highly depressed. I had been for years, but I was functioning, and I had anxiety attacks and panic attacks, but I had learned to manage them without medication, because medication did not do well with me, right? And then COVID happened, and my coping mechanism had been to make myself so busy that I had 2 full-time jobs. I was running like extracurricular things. I was going a million miles a minute. And when COVID happened, I had nowhere to go. And I kind of had to come face to face with myself. And 6 months earlier, I had been introduced to neurographic art. And the first month of COVID, I got certified in neurographica, and that was it. I didn't stop. And it literally saved my life. So this series of manifestation is those compositions that I did, those books that I read, because some of these are the compositions that I learned from other people, but the majority of this is the composition I created based on books that I was reading or podcasts that I was listening to, experiences that I was having. And it's all about, how do I move forward? How do I make decisions? How do I find out where I am and where it is that I'm going, right? So I'm a byproduct of a nuclear physicist mom and an architect father. So I get arts and all of that from my dad. I get the science part of it from my mom. So the one thing that I know is infallible in the physical existence that we are living in is the laws of physics. So if I want to go anywhere, laws of physics tells me that I need 3 things. I need to know where I'm starting from, my point of origin. I need to know my destination. And therefore, those 2 pieces of information gives me direction and the amount of energy I need to expend in order to get there, right? If I do all of these things correctly, I arrive at my destination. What we call a mistake in life is a miscalculation in one of these 3. Either I don't know what my original coordinates are, or I don't know the exact coordinates of my destination, or I don't spend enough time and energy in order to get there. So when we feel like we failed in life, we haven't. The direction you took, the energy and the time you spent would have led you nowhere but where you ended up. So if we understand that and re-coordinate from there, then you can get to whatever your next destination was, whether it's the same or different, right? So this is going to be the journey of that. Today's class is going to be, what is our coordinate? Where are we right now? right? Especially when we start journeys of manifestation, I like Gabby Bernstein's idea of a manic manifester. It's like, I want, gimme, 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 gimme. And that's great. It's good to have that kind of energy. It's good to have passion about what you want in order for you to, because like begets like. If you're passionate and excited about something, the universe returns it back to you much quicker because you have a higher frequency. But more often than not, when we get into a journey of manifestation, we focus so much on what it is we don't have that we forget to look at what it is we do have. We look at our destination so much that we forget where our beginning coordinates are. And that's incredibly important. So today, what we're going to have is a visual representation of where you are in your life. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is draw a circle. And then this circle is going to go through 4 quadrants. We'll do this all on paper. You don't need to remember any of this right now. And I'm going to divide this into 12 pieces. Not 8, 12, sorry. And this is going to be informed, believe it or not, by the zodiac. Because in the 12 months of the year, we have all of the elements that we're going to have on this chart. And I'll tell you how they will correspond to different parts of the zodiac. This is why the wisdom of astrology is so amazing to me. That we have these movements of these different parts of our life that is literally being shined down on us, that's being reflected on us, if we can just look up and take advice from it. Okay, so at any point, if there's any questions, if you don't understand anything, let me know. But otherwise, if you don't have any questions, let's get into it and let's start drawing what we're doing. Before we do that, there's 2 of me, right? You see 2 maryaminis. One has my face, the other one has a piece of paper on it right now. Okay, please switch to that one and pin that one to your screen. My face is no longer going to be of any value to you.
We'll see that.
Yeah, you don't need to see my face. You just need to be able to see what it is I'm doing on a piece of paper. So
how do we do that? How do we get that? You did that for us last time. You shifted, because now we are seeing you in the screen and I cannot get that other one.
So there should be a place on your device that has 3 dots that allows you to go into view. You want to be in gallery view.
Yeah.
And then you'll see everybody.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then find the one with the paper, pin it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I see.
The thing with that is if you don't pin, when somebody else speaks, that it's going to shift. It's going to go to their face.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. So,
Nee.
If you are newer to especially neurographica and neurographic lines and like doing neurographic designs around a geometric shape, my suggestion to you is don't use very fine tipped pen. The finer the tip of your pen, so this is what I'm talking about. The difference between using a fine tip, right, and an ultra fine tip. Okay, if you come to this level, when you're dealing with ultra fine tip, you can get more details in what you're doing, but it also takes longer, right? So right now, especially for you guys, I don't actually recommend doing anything thinner than this. If you want to have a thicker pen, by all means, but no thinner than this. Okay. So,
all right.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this whole being that you are. Now, in neurographic art, we represent whole things, or we represent things in general that exist in circles. Okay? Circles are this sign of harmony, peace, something that has no beginning and no end. It's eternal. But aside from all of that, it's encapsulating, right? It contains something inside it. Okay, so what we are right now is a bundle of contained energy, different types of energy. So the first thing I want you to do is put your pen on your paper and just decide where you want to draw this circle that represents you and how big you want it to be. Okay, that's completely up to you. I have a feeling this is going to be fast.
Draw it or not?
Yes, go ahead. I just needed to check my pen because I got a feeling that it was going to be like phosphorus, and I was right. So you wouldn't be able to see what I'm drawing if I had done it with that. So your circle does not need to be perfect. If it's oval shaped, that's fine. The point of neurographic art isn't the aesthetics of it, isn't what it looks like. It's the journey we go through as we create the piece. Okay? So once you have your circle, neurograph it. See, my circle is not perfect. It's got a little cheek. It's a little cheeky like me. Everybody got their circle?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, let's divide this circle into 4 equal quadrants. So we're going to draw the vertical first, and then the horizontal. Across. Okay. This is where it's going to get fun, and you get a little bit of a decision point to make. And where you place these things will tell you things later on as we start filling this out. Okay. We have 4 quadrants right now in magic, in manifestation. We have 4 primary elements: earth, fire, wind, water, air, water, right? And ether. We can't physically touch ether. The rest of them are physical manifestations. So you have 4 quadrants and 4 elements. Decide right now what quadrant is what element. Which quadrant is your fire quadrant? Now let's look at water. Which quadrant is your water quadrant? Where is, out of the 3 remaining, which one is the water element? Next one is air. Which one is your air element? And then finally, which one is earth? In order for us to feel fulfilled as a human being, we need all 4 of these elements to be represented and rather fulfilled, right? Now, every element in magic or in manifestation or in the zodiac, actually in the zodiac has 3 manifestations. It actually appears in 3 different modalities. You have the cardinal, which is the season starter, which is the most pure form of that energy. You have the fixed form of that energy, and then you have the mutable form of that energy. So we're going to divide each of these quadrants that we have right now into 3 different parts. Okay, and the easiest way to do that is to draw diagonals again. Okay. And that one turned out a little small, but doesn't really matter. Now, before I start telling you what each of these pies stands for, what I want you to do is start at the tip of each of these sections that you have, put a little triangle, as if to extend the energy of that pie outside. That's your little sun. So we don't like in neurographic art, we don't like sharp angles and sharp tips. So go around and neurograph the edges of your triangle. Okay. Everybody ready? Everybody have their sun and it's neurographed? Okay. So let's start with the element of fire. Find where your fire element is or fire quadrant is. The very first pie on your fire element is going to be your cardinal fire, which is how much energy do you have? How full is your energy pie? How high are your vibrations? Are you vibrating low? Are you vibrating when you wake up in the morning? Are you excited to get out of bed? Oh wow, it's another beautiful day. Or are you dragging yourself out of bed and not excited to meet the day? So in your pie, the closer you are to the center, that's 0. The very edge of your circle is 10. So if this distance is 0 to 10, how vibrant do you feel? How energized? How much of this pie is full? Is it down here? Is it in the middle? Is it high? Is it all the way up? Wherever it is on that pie, draw a line. Okay, so I'm not particularly low. I'm not particularly high, maybe a little bit more then have to.
Can I ask a question, Mary?
Of course, always.
Okay, so how did you know to do it there? Is that,
Well, because it's the very first one of the fire quadrant. This is my fire quadrant.
oh, okay, very first one.
This
Okay,
is the
got
very
you.
first pie on the fire quadrant.
Okay, so for me, my fire quadrant is on the lower left. So my first one would be
This
the
one,
top or the bottom?
is
Oh, the
this
bottom,
your
okay.
quadrant? Then this would be
Yes, that's my quadrant.
yeah.
That one, okay, great. Thank you. And I'm, what am I trying to do? How am I drawing that
So
line, or where am I drawing that line?
if this is a full pie, if this
Uh-huh,
is 0 and this is 10, when you wake up in the morning, what's your energy level at? Is it a 2? Is it a 5?
okay,
Is it a 7? Is
okay,
it a 10? Draw the line wherever that.
gotcha. Okay, all right, thank you.
Anytime. Okay. We're going to move to the next pie right next to it. Okay. This is going to be your fixed fire, which is your sense of adventure and fun. How much fun are you having in your life? How many adventures are you going on in your life? Is it as much as you want, or is it less than you want? How much fun are you having? I'll be honest, I'm not being very adventurous right now. There's a lot happening. So my fun level is pretty low. I would like it to be a lot more than it is. Sorry, this is mutable. We have to go through mutable to get fixed. So this is mutable. This is the things that change, right? Your sense of adventure, the things that get you excited from time to time. How often are you excited and happy and jovial for a short period of time? That's your mutable fun. Okay. The last one is your fixed fire. How much determination do you find in yourself? How much ambition do you have for the things you want to achieve in your life? How hungry are you for this adventure called life? I'll be honest, for me, this is probably going to be the fullest. I want it really bad. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to water, element of water. Cardinal water, represented by Cancer, is your home, your sense of being home. So find your quadrant, your water quadrant. The very first piece of pie out of that is going to be your cardinal water. So when it comes to your sense of home, sense of family, sense of belonging, how full is that pie? How safe do you feel at home? How home do you feel at home? Okay. Next one is this quality of mutable water. That's representing your love life. When it comes to having the love of your life, the partner, the support, all of that. How empty is your romantic love tank? Not your familiar one, not the one with that you have with the people you belong with. But when it comes to this idea of your partner, how full is that? I'll be honest, I'm going through a divorce. We'll probably finalizing it in the next 4 weeks. So I'm pretty happy being without one. So, so I don't have a person, but I'm pretty happy with my non-existent love life. Right now, that's just fine by me. Okay. And then the final piece of that pie, your water pie, is your emotional state of health. When it comes to your emotional being, in your overall emotional cup, how full is that cup? How healthy do you think you are, emotionally speaking? Okay. Our next element is going to be the first one of air. So find your air quadrant. And the cardinal air sign stands for friendships and relationships. So when it comes to other than familial relationships, how are your friendships? How are your colleagues doing? How fulfilled do you feel in your social relationships that are not your love relationships and they're not your familial relationships? It's the people you have around you. Next one is going to be mutable air. So, what is your mental health is at? How would you evaluate your level of mental health right now? Are you a worrier? Do you bounce back quickly from setbacks? Do you fixate on things? How well do you think you're doing mentally? And then finally, the last pie is your personal evolution, your personal growth, represented by Aquarius. This idea that you are forever evolving and becoming a better version of yourself. How full is that pie? How fulfilled is that need in you? How much more growth do you think you have to do? Now, we're going to come to the last element, which is the element of earth. Okay, earth is everything physical in your life. Fire is your passion, your emotions, passion and motivation and energy. Water has to do with your emotions. Air has to do with your mental capacities and the way you think and your logical centers and all of that. Earth is everything physical, everything you've created. So the very first pie on earth is going to be your legacy, represented by Capricorn. How well is your life legacy, the things you have wanted to create in your life? How much of it is created? What is your financial status at? How safe do you feel with what you have created? Next pie is your physical health. How healthy are you physically? How do you feel about your body, your shape, your all of that? Your ability to move, your mobility, how well do you feel about your physical health? Are you recovering from something? So is this a pie that needs to improve? Okay, last one is mutable earth. How well do you sleep? How much are you worrying at night, listening to your inner analyst and inner critic, going on and on and on and on and on about your to-do list, and you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and why did you say this to this person? How well do you sleep? Okay. Once you have that, you have a shape in the center of your sun. Okay. So what I want you to do is take a neurographic line and connect all of these boundaries together. We want to emphasize this shape. Once you have your shape, what I want you to do is spend a few minutes and round all the connections and the sharp edges that you see around your sun and in the shape in the center. Okay. If anything was triggered while you were actually filling these pies, this is the time to let your mind roam and allow your mind to discover what parts of it were triggering, what parts of it were surprising. And at the same time, I want you to look at the amount of sun that you have covered inside of your shape. How much of your sun is outside of that shape? This is how fulfilled you actually feel. We're going to color this in a second. Is it more than you thought? Is it less than you thought? In what ways? So whatever observations come up, let them come up as you round all of the intersections that you have created. The rounding shouldn't take long, especially if you don't have an ultrafine pen like mine. So once you're done, let me know. One of the reasons neurographic art is so powerful is because it speaks to our subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind does not speak to you in language. It is your ego identity that uses language. Your subconscious mind uses sensation and symbology. Now, one of the things that, especially in modern psychology, we've come to model is this idea of us being a single entity and a single identity and a single mind. You know, we think that the voices inside of our head is different aspects of the same mind and the same person and the same personality. But that's not necessarily true. We all have multiple personalities depending on where we are and who is in front of us and how safe we feel and so on and so forth. You are a whole being, absolutely, but you are not only one thing. You're not just made up of a single element. So being able to see all the different aspects of you and the fact that your happiness and your fulfillment isn't reliant on just one element, and representing that visually allows for your subconscious mind also to remember that the happiness and fulfillment is not a singular goal. You are a single human being, but you have many different faces and facets and parts. And all of those parts are valid. And it's beautiful that we have so many parts, because then we can be in homeostasis. We can be in a state where different parts compensate for each other when one is down. You know, if you take a emotional blow, for example, having your mental acuity is important. Being able to come to terms with that narrative. So you get mentally stronger in the time where you are emotionally or physically weaker. They compensate for each other. This is a dynamic balance. And thank God for that, because we get our resilience from that. How are we doing? Yeah, take your
I
time.
think I'm finished. We're not doing anything with the like quadrant lines
No,
themselves,
no,
right?
those were just guidelines for you to have them divided. Okay, if you are done with rounding your sun or all the intersections, the next thing you want to do is you want to color your sun. Whatever color you like is fine. Yellow, whatever is orange, red, blue, purple, whatever color you want to color. The only thing is you're going to color the inside of the pie. And if you like, you're going to color the spikes on your sun. Okay. Now, the other thing that you can do, and if you want to keep rounding, I suggest you do this, but it's not mandatory, is to start drawing neural lines from the edges of the actual spikes on your sun to allow this energy of who you are to permeate more into the universe. So we're not just containing it here, we're allowing for this energy. Those triangles are going to give you that energy anyway, at this energy of movement. But if you really, really want to emphasize it, then draw some more neural lines. Now remember that if we draw neural lines, we're going to have to round the intersection. Okay, so if you're having resistance,
Please say.
Yeah.
Say again, what do we do with the pie?
So
The inside of the sun?
Yeah, so you're going to color the inside of the shape that you created, and you're going to color the spikes. This empty part, we're going to leave blank because you want to visually be able to see the difference between the borders of your circle and the inside of your work.
Yeah.
The full part.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you did draw neurographic lines outside of your, at the edges of your little triangles, when you color your work, run some of that color through those neural lines. You don't want to trap. So the reason that we introduce color is because we're introducing frequency. The idea behind this whole work is that this piece of paper that is in front of you is the pleroma. It is the field of all the possibilities and probabilities. And you are putting your self-expression, kind of like telling the genie in a bottle who you are. Not what you want yet, but who you are. This is our Slim Shady moment. This is one of those compositions that changes every single time you do it. You will never have the sun look exactly the same way twice. So it's a really, really good check-in tool to see how you feel. At one point, I was doing this once a month. Towards the beginning of the month, I would do this and try to see where I am, what changed, what things are getting fuller, what things are getting emptier. Where am I? It's a great kind of overall wellness scan. Like, you know how in meditation we'll do body scans where like you're scanning your whole body, trying to find where tension is, where pain is, where discomfort is. So kind of the same thing, but it's just like your overall metaphysical existence. And this is completely subjective, right? This is your idea of you. This is the way you are perceiving yourself. If you ask someone else probably to draw your sun for you, they will probably have a very different sun than the one you create for yourself. So as you are doing this work, notice a few things. Number one, how big was your initial circle? How much of the page did you allow yourself to take? Is it more than half the page? Is it less than half the page? Because the limits that you put around yourself are literally that. The proportion of your circle to your page is how big you allow yourself to show up in your life. So if your circle is really, really tiny, you are limiting yourself. You are scared to shine as bright as you actually can. If your circle is taking the majority of your page, you have self-confidence. You have no problem taking up space and declaring that I am everything that I am, everything that I want, legitimate, and it's here. And that's great. That confidence and that energy gets you very far. The second thing I want you to notice is what elements did you sandwich between other elements? Okay. Whereas, for example, your earth is, or if you wrote down what each pie was about, What are their relationships to each other? What are the ties that are touching each other or across from each other? Because they all bleed into each other and feed each other, right? It's all energy. Nothing is solid. And I promise you, if you notice where each section is, you will have associations in your mind about how they affect each other. And then the last thing that you want to notice is how much of your sun is actually colored in. So how full your cup is, really. And if you have any observations or there's anything you want to share or ask questions or anything, feel free to unmute. This is our fun, safe space. So feel free to use it however you like.
I have a question, Mary.
Of course.
So I see that you're doing neural lines over neural lines, like you're doubling them up or tripling them
Yes.
up,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So is that necessary, or can
No.
the neural lines just be no,
They,
right? Okay.
They can be singular. I'm doing that because I'm using a very, very, very fine tipped point pen.
Mm-hmm.
My lines don't really show. And I like
Oh,
this little effect that I get.
yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
used, if I don't do this now, this is my kink, don't do it. We shouldn't have kinks in neurographic art, but I do. I'm human, okay? So
Yeah.
I've gotten so used to doing lines, especially in programming. I've gotten used to doing lines like this so much that it's habit at this point,
Yeah.
which I should probably
Okay.
break. But no, you do not have to. But if you
Okay,
actually
great. Thank you.
want to get to the point of drawing lines like this, it's in the intro course, Farah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you'll
Yeah, I haven't gotten
eventually
to
get
that point yet. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be in a rush. It took me
Yeah.
almost a year to get to this point, so don't be in a rush but the instructions are there if you want to get to this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
And so what I see is that when you do neural lines over neural lines, then you have those little lines that are not like really exactly on top. Then you round those edges too, right?
Any intersections at
Yeah.
all, I round them. So
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I do, because there's two ways that you can do rounding. Okay, let's say, I don't know how well you can see these lines, but there's two ways that I can go about rounding. The first one is to actually come in and just round that corner and don't touch any, right? So as long as I'm not adding width to my line as I do this, that's fine. The other way of rounding is what's called express rounding, which is when I have a shape, I go around the whole shape and make sure that everything is round.
Yeah.
Okay, this is called express rounding. This is the rounding that I use most of. I very, very rarely go into just an intersection, do this and come out. Right? So every time you see me round, I'm doing, so I'm not going in right now and just rounding that and leaving it. Right? Did you see what? So
Yeah,
I'm
I
actually
did.
going
Yeah.
around the whole thing. I'm re-emphasizing that portion of my line, making it more visible, and at the same time making sure that my subconscious mind sees that everything that is here is rounded. All of the intersections, all of the shapes, no matter what, they are all 100% round.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
called
you.
express, but sometimes this actually takes longer than you just going in and individually filling in all of the intersections, which is also correct.
Thank you.
Anytime.
And when we go in to start adding color, where the idea is we want to use the same color through the inside of the circle, the whole thing, and
No, you can put multiple colors inside of the circle. The only rule that you have, as usual, is more than 2 sections of the same color.
okay.
So, for example, I could put a whole rainbow inside of this thing. But the idea is these little sections that are here, so I don't do just this one pie in a color and move on. I don't want to trap the color in one section.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hey, by all means, this is one of those compositions that you could full on go monochromatic. You want to use a single shade of yellow or 5 different shades of yellow, by all means, go for it. This is one of those things where monochromatism isn't going to affect it much. Also, drawing these lines for me is another way of taking space in the field of probabilities and possibilities. And it might sound selfish, but it's like I want more energy, I want more connection. So I will draw more lines usually than not. So, but I've gotten past the point of, well, mostly past the point of having resistance to rounding. There will be sessions where, like, although it might be excessive, I might sit down for 4 or 5 hours, and by the end of the hour 5, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. This is stupid. What are you doing? This is so. But my ego starts kicking in, and then I need a break. But more often than not, I can easily sit 3 or 4 hours now and just do lines and rounding or whatever other composition. I'm not expecting you to do the same thing because I mean, I built up to this point. And it's not necessary. The point is for you to go through the mental exercise and to have the physical expression. So don't model what you do after me. The beauty of neurographic art is that there is no right or wrong. Whatever you have on that piece of paper is right. The only thing that it will point out to you, though, is whether or not you're a perfectionist. Because if you get more bogged down in the process of, am I drawing my lines right? And you start comparing your work to other people, then you're not really present with what it is that you are supposed to be doing. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, really. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You just need to allow yourself to do it. And be present while I prompt you for thinking about different topics or different aspects of your life or things like that. So has anyone had any observations about their son that they found interesting that you want to share? You don't have to.
Yes.
Go for it.
I'm enjoying the movement that I make in the coloring as if I'm a sort of planet going through space. It's very round, my sun, and I see that I put a lot of emphasis of the radiation into the universe of it all. That I like giving it a lot of lines that I don't understand and I don't have to understand, but it's just born.
I love that. So more than anything, expansion energy.
Yeah.
And surrender at the same time. You're expanding and surrendering at the same time, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Which is usually the opposite, right? When we are expanding, we are doing it with purpose because we are trained that if we are not productive, quote unquote, for society, then we're not, worth the oxygen we breathe.
Yeah.
So usually when we are in expansion, it's with a very specific intent, a very specific product in mind. We are attached to our results. And the fact that you can be in expansion without having any anticipation or any attachment to the results that may or may not yield is a beautiful feeling. That's very inspiring.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it.
Mm.
It's like a constant movement.
And I discovered on Earth how healthy is my body. I put in a little low, half of my pie, but doing this made me energetic and full of speed and enjoyment. So it seemed to increase my healthy
Feeling.
physic, spirit and feeling, yes.
That's
yes.
good. Because again, it's when we do this composition, it brings to mind to the fact that you are not just the things you don't have. Right? The entirety of this sun isn't the 1 or 2 pies that are low. You actually have more pies that are filled than pies that are empty. And yet the majority of our time, we spend our time thinking about the things that are empty, the parts we don't have.
Yeah, and also it's possible that I think this pie is a little bit empty, but when I look closer and go into it, it's not empty at all. It's full of spirit, joy, and colors. Yeah.
I think the thing that still surprises me with this composition to this day, every single time, is that it's more full than I think it's going to be. I think I'm more critical of myself in my own mind. And I can zero in on those things that I don't really want. Right? And I can make them bigger than the other things that I already have and do want and can be grateful for. So this becomes like a gratitude practice for me. Even unintentionally. Right?
Yes.
I have actually been really, really down, and I've intentionally gone in to do this composition to prove to myself that I'm like really low. I have really low vibrations. And every single time I've ended up being surprised because that's not what ends up happening. Every single time my circle is bigger than I think it's going to be.
Yes.
And here's the other thing. The first time I did this composition, my son was yay big.
What?
Yeah, it was like the circle, the main circle was this big. I didn't
Okay.
allow myself to make a bigger circle and take up more space. Over the time, the more I do this, the bigger my circle gets and the
The
smaller
bigger.
triangles get.
Ah,
Right, so I'm not so much into projecting, which is what the triangles will do, as I am about, okay, I'm here, I'm actually taking space. I don't want to project taking space. I'm actually taking the space.
you're doing it. And by the time you get 70, you fill the whole page with a circle.
Pretty much. I'm gonna get to the point where the circle is not gonna fit in anymore. It just be like a portion of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So I'm noticing actually that my circle is smaller than I would have thought it would be, and it's less full than I would have thought it would be. Yeah, so I'm noticing that. I'm noticing like a little bit of sadness around that, and also a little bit of like acceptance and like, okay, that makes sense.
I love your resignation and your
Yeah.
observation. The fact that you can just be in the space of like, I'm just gonna look at this and take it in and okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I want you to do for homework. If you so choose to have homework, I would like you to repeat this Wednesday, Thursday of this week before we meet again. I'll send you the recording tomorrow to everybody. So if you choose to have homework, the homework is to repeat this, because this time you are not the first time we go through any composition, your brain is doing two things at the same time. It's listening to instructions and carrying it out and trying to do the things that I'm asking you to do. Next time you will know what the composition part is. So you can really connect into it again and see how things change, if it changes at all. Okay.
Okay.
And also, I would really suggest, have you done releases before?
Yes, but not very many. Just a couple.
Okay. So in the next day or two, do a release surrounding how you feel right now.
Okay.
This observation, this sadness, this resignation, this let those be the words you put on the back.
Okay.
And do a release and see what comes out.
Okay.
Something is trying to express, but doesn't feel safe enough.
Yeah.
So let's go on a journey of discovery and find out what it is.
Yes, let's. Great. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm also
Gloria?
one other. I was just going to say one other thing that I'm just noticing that I think is interesting is I'm normally the kind of person that likes a lot of, like, I like a lot of color. I like a lot of difference. And I really wanted to just use one color. And I just think that that's really interesting. So
I have a question for you. When it comes to your life right now, the way you are living, are you feeling restricted in terms of what you can do versus what you want to do, or no?
Well, yeah, so this is sort of a partial indirect answer, but I'm in a period of intense transition in almost every part of my life. So like we're selling our house and moving to an unknown place in like I don't know where we're moving or what we're doing, but we're moving out of the state. My job is transitioning. My marriage is in a transition to an unknown place. So I do sort of have this feeling of like I'm doing a lot of actual release in my life and
Mm-hmm.
sort of waiting for the expression of the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
But you're also finding that very restricting because you cannot do the things you're used to doing.
exactly. It's like
Right?
this piece of like sort of my energy isn't able to sort of move on to the next thing because I don't even know what the next thing
Right.
is.
You're in a hurry up and wait state.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 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 So that's why partly when I look at this, it's like, okay, it makes sense actually. Of like, I sort of feel like I'm in this holding pattern of
Right.
in a lot of places of like, we're gonna see what happens.
Right. So
Yeah.
one of the things that makes us feel quote unquote happy, and you know this as a therapist, is certainty. Having ambiguity in life is not something that our psyche is comfortable with. We have given
Yeah.
our brain the job of sort of predicting and preventing bad things from happening in our life. And this leads to overthinking because our ego and our mind is not capable of controlling the environment around us. So the best it can do is use past models to project the future. And when you get into a situation like yours, where your past models no longer apply, you cannot rely on yourself and your cerebral abilities to be able to protect yourself. So you are feeling at the same time vulnerable and restricted because you can't see those things that haven't shown themselves yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mooi hè?
Yeah. And really working with surrender
Mm-hmm.
and trust.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, those are
And when you say
challenging.
trust, who are we trusting?
Well, I am trusting my well in my best moments, I'm trusting myself and trusting, you know, the divine.
Okay.
Trusting like my higher self, maybe my
Okay.
true self. Um, yeah, and trusting sort of the unfolding and evolving path
Okay.
is what I'm trying to hold an intention of. And sometimes that's accessible and sometimes it is not.
Right.
Right.
So the funny thing about trust is that trust and vulnerability go hand in hand, 100%. Okay. Because when you say, I trust something or someone or some process, what you're really saying is that my emotional and mental capacity is empty enough that no matter what the consequences are, I can deal with it. When we don't trust, what we're saying is, I don't have the mental, physical, or financial capabilities, or whatever it may be, of dealing with the consequences of whatever it is that's happening right now. Right? Trust, you can only ever trust in one entity, and that's you.
Mm-hmm.
We can't trust the universe or Mother Nature or anything like that because it is by definition always in flux. Nothing that Mother Nature throws at you is ever going to stay the same. It is always going to change. So when you trust yourself, you come into surrender to these changes, knowing that no matter what changes, you will not. And your ability to deal with things as they come will not.
Yeah, I do feel like I trust the divine. I mean, which is me, as me, but also outside of me, which is me as well.
Well, the trust
Yeah.
in divine is faith, is surrender. It's not
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Mm,
The trust in you is not based on faith. It's learned. It's
mm,
earned. The trust in divine is readily given or
mm.
not given, depending on where your stance on the divine, right? So if you believe in the divine and if you have faith, it is faith. It is not trust that is earned, right?
Yeah.
Because we also say that the divine moves in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Don't always understand the things that the divine throws at us.
Yes.
But in order for you to gain trust, you must have understanding. How are you behaving? Why are things happening? What is happening? There is a level of understanding and physicality that's attached to trust compared to faith. And there's also a different level of vulnerability, right? When we get hurt by the people around us, by the circumstances around us, that's very tangible. When you get disappointed in the divine, because it's never going to hurt you, but when you get disappointed, it's disappointment and not betrayal. Right? We don't feel betrayed by the divine. We ask questions. Why? Why didn't it manifest the way I want? Right? But when somebody backstabs you, when somebody breaks your trust, that's no longer faith. That's something that was a pattern, and you broke that pattern. So you have trust in yourself and faith in the universe and your higher self and the divine and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes the trust is, I enjoyed this very much, and now it's time to do something else.
No, it's not time to do something else. We are ready.
Oh, we are ready. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And content.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes. Thank you.
Mary?
Yes, darling. Are you ready to show me?
I think we have enough. Yeah, we can show, but then I think I cannot make 3 hours. That's just too much.
No, it's okay. We're almost, I mean, instructions are done. So as long as your work is done, you're good to go if you want to. Let me just, okay, let me again.
Yes, but we don't want to leave silently, huh? It's not.
So you're very sweet. Let me see your
not
son
our
again,
style.
Anna.
I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, lovely. Look at how cool
mine.
that is. That's
mine.
so lovely.
And this is mine.
As always, Fenna, you use very soft and feminine colors. I love that. Your circle is almost
enjoy it so much. And you know, this is it's almost full. Yeah. But it is the resonance of our life, I think, that that circle is full, and to sort of take this with us in the coming week makes it very tangible. The way we worked hard in our lives, you know, we went through all these things, but now we're in our 70s. It is like picking the fruits of life. It really is. It's lovely.
Joyful. Yes.
With full.
That's inspiring.
Gives me hope. Exactly.
Yeah.
I am about 30 years behind you. I just turned 40. So in 30 years, hopefully, I will have just as full of a circle as you do.
Yes, you will. Because as long as we stay connected and faithful to our inner growth, whatever we experience, if it's suffering or joy and anything in between, if you take that in, and especially with art forms, then you will get there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We were different when we were 40s.
Oh yes, certainly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you guys
for this evening.
Yeah.
And see you next week, huh?
And to Farah, to Jessica.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
All
Thank
the best
you.
to you too.
Thank you.
Next week, okay?
Goodbye.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Mary, I had a question.
Questions are going to go fully into 3 hours, but go ahead, darling.
Okay, so this is just a general question about neurographic. Do we, when we do releases, can we do something else on the same day other than a release?
Of course.
Okay, because I know there's some rules around this. Like you can't work on a different topic on the same day, like two different topics.
this is why I don't practice neurographic.
Okay.
This idea that, for example, you need to do the same topic over and over and over again until it's released and fully resolved, and you can't move on. Well, okay, you're restricting me. The
Yeah.
point of this art is for me to be able to use it as a tool to express what I need when I need. So if I've done a release and now all of a sudden I have something that is more tangible and more of a planning algorithm or planning composition, I'm going to go into that. If I do a release and it brings up something else that's triggering me and I need to release that, I'll do a second release on a different topic at the same time. Right?
Okay.
So these are the reasons why I am very much inspired by Neurographica. I think neurolines and rounding and this idea of compositions and multiple levels of consciousness is solid. That has, but the militant way that they go about practicing to me is very counterintuitive to the main theory behind it. So again, if you want to follow Neurographica, then they will put all of these rules around you. My suggestion to you is this is you, your expression, and your divine. Do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want.
Okay. Okay. So, so then, you know, I have been recently being guided to, actually intuitively guided to do a sort of the neurographic art around self-love and self-appreciation daily to honor one of my qualities each day.
Lovely.
And I want to do that, but then can I also do, you know, in terms of this coursework as well, like releases on the same day
100%.
when I do that as well, you know, like that was
100%.
my question. Okay.
What you're doing is essentially a gratitude practice. Now, have you ever seen when they do neurographic art on pre-existing art?
No.
Okay.
I have not.
Where can I? Let me see if I can. Okay, I can probably find a picture and share my screen. Give me a second. Nope, that's the wrong one. Because one of the things you can do is you can actually print a symbol or a picture or something that represents that quality, that thing that you want to, and then draw neurographic lines on it and color it. Give me 1 second. I have a Phoenix image that I can show you. So when you do that, it really takes you out of the neurographic end of things and puts you solidly in neurographic neurographic art and just manifesting that way.
Okay.
Right? So then there is zero conflation at that point between the two practices. So if you can find here, open that, and then I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, my computer is really slow. It seems to be working on like steam power or something.
It's okay.
Recently, it really does not like opening more than one thing at a time. Basic, this one, share. Okay. Okay. Can you see that image?
Not yet. Okay, there it is. Yeah.
Okay. So this was a pre-existing thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if let me see. Yeah. Or this one. This is what I did for in bulk. Right. So this is already there. I just put in what I wanted to in the center and I've just drawn neurographic lines on top of it. And so you can do this kind of thing as well.
Okay. Can you go back to the other one? That was pretty cool. Yeah,
so on that,
awesome.
did you draw the Phoenix first? Is that what you're saying?
So the Phoenix is printed.
Okay, gotcha.
It is on a pre-printed piece of paper. If there's other versions of it, see? So that shape was oops. that shape is already on the piece of, this is why I'm showing you the in bulk one, so it's actually a little bit more, you can
Gotcha.
see it a little bit better. Nope, too far. Or like that, right? So the image is already on the piece of paper. All I'm doing is adding neural lines to it, and if you want, universal consciousness lines.
And you're doing neural lines from the image to the edge of the paper,
You
correct?
got it. I'm finding any edges, any sharp edges, and lines in the wings and extending them out.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's another way of doing neurographic art and still having intention behind it without it being part of the neurographica practice, right? And the other thing is in neurographica, they don't tell you this tick-tock between a release and a programming, right? They will actually, they teach you releases as one of the basic algorithms, and they move on from it very quickly.
Mm.
And I think the lion's share of what neurographica can do to help you heal is actually the release work.
Yeah.
But the more you do release work, the more intense it gets, the longer it takes for you to actually like draw the very first catharsis, right? And it is emotionally triggering. It's hard work. Doing releases over and over and over and over again is really, really hard work. Right? Whereas doing a programming session is not. Doing the other parts that seem more fun is not as emotionally tasking because it is outwardly motivated.
Yeah.
The releases are 100% internal. It is a mirror of your internal environment and internal world. And if you don't feel safe enough yet, if you're not ready yet to really dive deep, a lot of people actually move away from releases really quickly. So for me, this is why it became so important for me to have at least one session of release per week. There were days that I was doing 3 or 4 releases in the same day. Even if it meant doing express ones. I think I found one of my express ones the other day. Did I put it in this notebook? Let's see, or did I put it in the other one? So you can do them in like on tiny, tiny pieces of paper.
Yeah, that was going to be my other question is like, can we do it on smaller pieces of paper? Because when I do it on 9x12, it just takes several hours to do. And
this takes 5 minutes.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was wondering is can I do it on smaller? Okay.
100%. Okay. The thicker your pen is, the smaller your piece of paper is, and the more markers you use to color, the faster this process will go. You can actually do all of this on like index size or like post-it notes. And just use highlighters to round it or to color it and use your same fine tipped pen to round it. And it will take less than 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know if I want to spend like 3 hours on this every day or every few days, when I'm doing the releases.
100%. It depends on you. It depends on how deep it is that you're releasing, right? So for example, I have done releases around having an argument with my ex. And it's been this size and it's taken 10 minutes and it's been done. Then I've done releases around my childhood sexual abuse and it's taken 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I've drawn more lines as I'm going around. It's not just that I just finished because there is more to unpack. When I'm having an argument with my ex, it's rather superficial. My childhood abuse is now 35 years old. So there's a lot more that has come from that. It triggers a lot more. So the deeper the issue is, you will tend to want to spend more time dealing with it. And so it is 100. This is a tool. You use it as it benefits you. I have 0 rules other than like the very basics of how to draw a neural line. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, like yesterday when I was doing the release, and I followed through your meditation that you did before we started on paper, I it was around shame and not enoughness. And um, it took me about 3.5 hours to do that one.
Right.
So it does take like a while to do it. And it sometimes becomes so tedious that I feel like I don't want to do it anymore. You know,
Okay.
that's kind of like something that I notice.
So that's resistance to rounding.
Yeah.
When in the middle of it, you start getting these things of like, oh my God, it's been 3 hours. You didn't do anything more
Hmm.
productive. Can't you just get up and cook? Or like, what is this? This is so stupid.
Yeah.
This is your ego stepping in, going,
Right.
hey, something is happening in the background I can't control and I can't identify. Can we stop this now?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
those situations, you want to push through, you want to finish it.
Yeah. I really enjoy the rounding. I don't know. It just brings me a lot of calmness and peace when I do the rounding. I just noticed that it's a lot different than it was when I actually did the catharsis yesterday. And especially yesterday when I did the catharsis, I for the first time I did it audibly, like
Mhm.
you suggested. And I've never heard of anyone saying that in Neurographica, to do it audibly like that. And I did it and I felt so good. I felt so good to release that. And then, you know, what transpired out of that was just amazing. You know, I mentioned about the two hearts. And let me see if I can show you actually.
Mhm.
It's just really, really cool how it turned out.
Oh,
You
lovely.
see that? Like there's this heart that was almost like a perfect heart. And then all of a sudden, the neural lines, when I made them, they wanted to make another heart. See, like right here. And it was a free-flowing heart, kind of like a neural heart. And then I kind of received guidance to like, this heart is mine and this heart is of God's. And and then I asked my inner being, why was this mine and why is this God's? Because it's like a free flowing heart. Like God's energy is just free flowing in our life, and it just has a lot of flow and ease and movement to it, whereas mine sometimes can be restricted in a certain way, and mine wants to be perfect in a, you know, in many ways, right? So it was just amazing. And the message I kept getting as I was doing this was, you know, with love, anything is possible.
Love
With
and
love,
all is coming.
all healing is possible. With love, all miracles are possible, you know? And so it's amazing how in all of my artwork so far that I have seen, there's been hearts everywhere. I see hearts everywhere. I even see hearts in nature. I'm like the queen of hearts, I say. Because I find hearts everywhere in different places in different ways. And then I also noticed that there's always like there in the last 3 or 4 pieces I've done, I've always seen like people in my artwork. They always seem to be on this right side for whatever reason. You see this one here?
Mm-hmm.
There's this person here that I see. Then there's like another person here, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's this another person here. And in one of them there was an angel that just formed. And it's just really amazing to me how there seems to be such a great connection with support and the divine in all the ways it shows up in our life, and how like how I'm being so open to seeing that through this piece of, you know, or this form of art, I would say. It's just amazing like how much it has opened up my mind and my heart to seeing things differently, and also like, you know, seeing my journey differently too, seeing the state of mind and the state of being that I'm in right now, very differently. So it's just adding a lot of new perspectives to my life that I'm just really mind blown by at times.
It gives you an
And
ability to look at yourself in a way you can
yeah,
look at yourself in the mirror. I don't care how much you
yes.
journal. I don't care how much you do therapy. I don't care who you talk to. You're never going to be able to express yourself the way you do and allow your subconscious to
Mm-hmm.
express the way neuroart does. So specifically release.
Yeah.
All of the other compositions is your conscious mind speaking to your subconscious. The release
Right,
are your
right.
subconscious speaking to your conscious mind through symbology.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe in symbolism a lot. I find meaning in a lot of my experiences, even, you know, with the breast cancer that I had, there was a lot of meaning to that for me in terms of my own healing journey and where I was being led. And, you know, when neurographic art showed up, I had always been inclined to art as a child, and I didn't really get to pursue that sort of dream of, you know, wanting to do more art and creating more art, and kind of left it behind in my childhood. And then all of a sudden, neurographic art shows up, and I'm thinking, you know, like this felt like my answer, like to the healing that I was needing through art, because I know that I have healed before through art when I was going through another dark night of the soul, like 10 plus years ago. And now, you know, now I'm dealing with something else, and art just brings me back home to me. It's just it's just really amazing how neurographic art has been doing that for me this past couple of months that I've been exploring it.
The amazing thing about us is, at least both physically and metaphysically, so psychologically, emotionally, whatever, you're the only one who heals you. Even with
Right.
intervention of
Absolutely.
Western medicine, it is your body that's healing itself. The medicine is just a
Yep.
conduit to a different
Right.
energy to flow within your system so that you have a different lived experience. At least with physical medicine, there is the possibility of intervention by a
Yeah.
healer or a physician. Or when it comes to mental and emotional healing and trauma healing, no, there is no surgeon, there is no anesthesia, there is no, and you are the best doctor there is. You know exactly what it is you need. The problem is we are raised in societies that says, hey, no, I need to externally validate what it is you
Right.
think and feel in order for it to be correct. I don't care about it being correct. This is why this is so magical, because it takes away any pre-existing notions of what should be. It just creates what is. And it
Yeah.
shows you that there is beauty in those things you don't consider to be beautiful. I have done really violent releases, especially around my childhood, to the point where I was bawling when I was rounding. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so ugly and it's so constrained and it's so bleh. And I've colored it. And first of all, I no longer find it ugly. And what's interesting is other people who see those pieces can't put their finger on it. They can't tell me why I'm feeling the way, or that they feel the way they do towards them, but they gravitate and they go, oh my God, this is so pretty. Oh my God, this is so fascinating. Oh my God, this is so much energy. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a shit ton of pain on that piece of paper you don't recognize. But it speaks to people.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
allows me to put my pain out there and make something beautiful out of it, which is the entirety of the journey of life. That's the way we learn. If it doesn't hurt, we don't learn.
Yeah.
We don't want
Yeah.
to avoid happy moments in our lives when we're talking and dancing and, you know, when we're elated. So our mind doesn't hold on to those patterns. But we want to avoid
Right.
pain. So anything that was painful, your mind will hold on to, like, hey, that's a pattern. We're going to avoid this. Well, the
Yeah.
avoidance of pain does not lead to healing. It leads to festering. If you avoid an infection in your body, it just festers.
Yeah. 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 I did this other release recently around grief, and um what happened was like interesting because I did it in the evening, and then the next day I woke up with a lot of intense pain in my belly, and I actually had a fainting episode basically, usually when I am menstruating, it was the first day of menstruation for me for that month. And I was like, my body went into the past history where I've had these, where on the first day of menstruation, I've had these really intense panic attacks because I have so much pain in my body that I am so uncomfortable with dealing that I develop these panic attacks and I feel like I'm gonna die. So I ended up going to the bathroom and wanting to release, but I couldn't. Like I couldn't get myself to release. And so I had these polarities going on in my body, these polarized parts that just were coming up. There's this part that was so afraid of dying because it literally felt like I was gonna die. My blood pressure was down, my heart rate was down. Like I was sweating all over, and there was this part that felt like it was dying. And then there was this part that was like, no, you can survive this. You can get through this. You are able to get through. You're capable of getting through this, you know? So these parts were just like talking to me. And I'm just like, here, I'm like trying to like breathe and just trying to notice my breath and really pay attention to the sensations in my body. Because I know that there's a bigger part of me that will get me through this, you know? And so I did. I made it through. It took me about an hour, but I made it through. And the release happened, you know, through, you know, the bowel movement. And I know I'm sharing a lot of information, but that's exactly what happened for me. Like after releasing that grief, doing that neurographic art on grief, the next day, my belly, that's where I hold a lot of my grief too, is my belly was reacting. And then this panic attack happened. And it was more of like an experience that I think I needed to have to remind myself that I can get through this. Like I can make it through. I've survived and I've thrived and I can do it again.
Right. So the whole point of this process is exactly that, is to show you that. So when your subconscious mind starts talking to you, it only does so when it knows that your conscious mind has the strength to deal with what it is bringing up. It will not give you something you are not capable of handling. Now, that might be very, very intense, right? What you are going through and what is going to get triggered for you might be very intense, like the experience you had
Like this
physically,
was, yeah.
right? But it is telling you, hey, stick with me. I know you got it in you.
Yeah.
The voice that's in the back of your mind going, you got it. You got this. We've got this. That's your subconscious mind saying, hey, your need for survival, your hardwired need for survival at a cellular level is going to carry you through whatever it is that is coming next.
Right, right, absolutely. And you know, it was exactly like that with breast cancer too. You know, when I was diagnosed, you know, of course, my body was in a lot of shock. I was in a lot of shock mentally, emotionally, everything, you know, but then there was this bigger part of me that knew I'm gonna get through this. You know, same thing happened with this panic attack in the bathroom. I needed help, so I had my daughter in there with me, like holding my hand because I needed some support, right? But you know, it's just beautiful how it kind of, you know, rises me up to doing the things that I know I absolutely need to ask for, like asking for help in certain ways. Like this breast cancer journey was so much about asking for help and allowing myself to receive help. And so was this panic attack. Right. And so there's just, it's beautiful how nature just conspires to help us and favor us in so many ways, like this, you know, like helping us further heal in our own beings that, you know, that we have right now, our bodies and our minds and our hearts, right? So I just think it's beautiful. It's intense, but it's also beautiful what unfolds from that.
It has to be intense because what has left an impression has been, if it wasn't intense to begin with, it has gained intensity, right? When we go through things and we we go through trauma or pain or all of those things, and it is not released in the moment, and none of us are good at releasing it in the moment. I don't care how enlightened you are.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is that this becomes trapped energy, and it starts to become energy that's rotating around itself around inside of you. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Basic laws of physics. Anything that rotates around itself has gravity.
Right.
The faster you rotate around yourself, the more gravity you have. So this is why we are heavier on Earth than we would be on the moon, because the moon takes as long to go around the Earth as it does to spin around itself. So it's not spinning very fast. So it doesn't have a lot of gravitational pull. The more intensely you feel things and the deeper you bury them, the more it's the faster it's rotating around itself. So even if it didn't have any weight to begin with, it starts to gain weight. It starts to attract other events in your life that will feed it. So it will start to gain more weight. It starts to become heavier. Through this kind of a process, you put all of that weight down. And then you wait and see what else comes up. Right? And it's, for me, it's beautiful that you are actually releasing physically at the same time as you're releasing emotionally.
Is it emotional?
It tells me it's working. Right? Because here's the thing, anything that registers on the body registers on the breath. Anything that registers on the mind registers on the breath. So when you do something with on the mind, in the mind, and using the breath, and the same thing happens in your body, it tells me that triplicity is complete. You are coming home to yourself in all the ways. You're connecting the body, the mind.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed whenever I do this neurographic art is I notice that my feet want to be flat on the floor so that I can feel grounded. And then whenever I'm doing the lines, I also feel like there's a mindfulness to it. Like there's a mindfulness to drawing the lines, and then there's a mindfulness, and I tend to notice my breathing too when I'm doing the lines, and when I'm doing, when I'm doing the rounding, I just notice like my breath. Like I can focus on my breath and also do the lines and the rounding at the same time, which I think it feels incredible to be able to do that, because multitasking doesn't always come so easy like that, but noticing the breath while I'm rounding and noticing the breath when I'm doing the neural lines, it's just interesting what I uncover every time.
I am happy you have this tool, and I'm happy to share with whatever it is you're discovering. So what did your son look like?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm not done with rounding the neural lines yet and coloring, but here's what it looked like. And I don't know if I missed the instruction on having 12 instead of more than 12. So my son looks a little weird, but that's okay. It's unique. And so I just kind of made this one kind of go here. Whatever there were two of in any of the quadrants, then I just made them one. But then because of these lines here, it kind of looks a little off. But anyway, I noticed that I have a lot more air. Air is a lot bigger in my life. There's a little bit of fire, but I'm a fire sign too, so I think I need a little bit more fire in me. And over here, okay, so this was interesting because this was for romantic love right here. And when I was drawing, when I was trying to like because I had an extra of the pie here, when I was trying to connect it, I ended up connecting this one with this when it wasn't supposed to be that. So it was interesting because this is about romantic love, and this is where I stood right here at a very low scale. But then when I did when I was doing it and I mistakenly did it here, I kind of was thinking how I don't only see romantic love as being love between another person and me. I see romantic love with myself too. And for me, like self-love is an important practice daily. And so then I was thinking that, like, I just know, it wasn't thinking, but it was just awareness that came to me, is that this is mine right here. And this is with the other person. So now I've got like two
So
pieces of
then your
romantic
love
love
tank,
here.
right? So your love tank is a lot fuller than you thought it was gonna be.
Yes,
But the
yes,
other thing that's
yes,
really
exactly.
interesting is that the way that everything is set up inside of your sun looks like a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like you literally have a
Yeah,
perfect
it does, doesn't
shell
it?
or a perfect fan. So this idea that
Yeah,
you're
like
expanding,
right here. Yeah,
right? You're fanning out,
yeah,
you're expanding out, you're 100% right,
yes,
you're unique, but you're really expanding out and you're filling yourself in, which is beautiful. I love that. I love
yeah.
that you have symmetry.
Thank you.
And where you have put things instinctively is giving
Uh-huh.
you that symmetry. So your subconscious mind needs you to recognize this, needs you to recognize that, especially if
Yeah.
you have a lot of air, be aware of being in your shell. Be aware of the story being
Mm-hmm.
something other than what you're telling yourself.
Right.
Especially if you have a lot, if you're very strong in your air signs right now. Air is your element of
Yeah, yeah,
logic. It's this thing of I
yeah.
need to logically go through everything. I even want emotions to make logical sense.
Yeah, yeah. So my sun sign is fire. My rising sign is also fire. It's a Leo. And my moon sign is Gemini, which is air. And um Gemini has to do with Mercury, which was retrograde at the time that I was born. So anytime that a Mercury retrograde happens, I have these intense things happening in my life, and I have these intense shifts happening inside of me as well when something external is happening too. So it's interesting because that I have the air, because I have Gemini as my moon sign, and which is an air sign. So it's just and I do tend to catch myself in my head quite a bit too, in my thoughts in my
Yeah,
head,
but Gemini
being
moon,
very anal
Gemini moon
being very
doesn't
anal.
mean you're in your head. Gemini moon means you have a lot of stories and emotions around the stories you're telling
Mm,
yourself, right? Your
okay.
moon sign
Yes.
is your
Hmm.
internal emotional state. It's your subconscious self. And Gemini is your
Okay.
mutable air. So Gemini is
Okay.
actually not the one that's trying to make sense of the world around them. They're trying to find out the story. Gemini
Okay.
this is
Like
the
why?
curious one. It's not even about the why, it's where does the story go? What's the story?
Okay.
Who are the people? What are the events? How are the emotions? What, like, and where does it go next? Like it is
Hmm.
always looking for the story and the evolution of the story. This is why they learn so much, because they're curious. Then what
Okay.
then what happened?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So you get emotionally get into this space of then what happens? I have this emotion.
Yeah.
Now it needs to move to the next level. Now it needs to go over there. The difference
Okay.
is people are not as progressive with their emotions as you are. So
Mm,
they tend to stay in the same state. And that makes you very, very frustrated because your
yeah.
emotional state is in a constant state of flux.
Yeah. And that resonates, like, oh my gosh, that is so true for me, because that's exactly like even like in my journey of health, like physical health in my body. um I was very sick as a child, and I have developed many illnesses over the years, and I've had chronic injuries to my body. And so there's always been some kind of trauma or some kind of emotion associated with any of that, like the health and the physical injuries that I've had. And I always want to know, like, what's next? Like, what was the reason for this, and where am I going next now with the emotion and the trauma that has surfaced? And how can I heal it further? That's like
Right.
Wow.
So you're always looking for that progression. The challenge
Mm-hmm.
is stay here for a minute
Right, right.
before we
Yeah,
jump to
stay in
the
the
next.
present.
Just hi,
Yeah,
this moment right now, not
yeah,
before, not just here.
yeah. Right here.
You just
Yeah. Yeah,
observe
that is a
here
challenge.
yeah.
Yes, yes. That
For a
makes so much
mutable air,
sense.
for a
Thank
mutable
you.
sign in general, that's a challenge to stay still.
Yeah,
But for mutable air, it's like ever-changing winds. And the other thing,
right.
you said you were born under a retrograde Mercury. Mercury is the
Yeah,
planet for communication. So the thing
yes.
that is going to happen is a lot of time you feel like you are caught in miscommunication. You
Oh,
say
yeah.
something and other people hear something else.
Oh,
And when
yeah,
they say that
absolutely.
back to you, that gets you frustrated because you're like, why don't you understand me?
Oh my gosh.
Part of it is
Yes.
because of your Gemini moon. Part of it is
Uh-huh.
because of the fact that you feel a lot of things, but communicating that
Mm,
is difficult. You tend to internalize the things that you feel.
yes,
So
yes.
what happens is because communication is challenged, you usually do it when you've had it up to here. It's
Mm-hmm.
not voluntary communication. It's this overflow and explosion of like,
It's yeah, it's an explosion. It's like it's so built up that it's now time I need to get it out.
it's coming out whether you're ready
Yeah,
or not. It's a
yeah,
volcano. It's coming out and like,
yeah. Uh,
so that will make other
yeah,
people more prone to
uh,
misunderstanding you further because what now they're reacting
yeah,
to is the shell, not the message itself.
uh,
So I think the biggest thing is to
yeah.
get you to the point where you're comfortable communicating before it gets to the point of
Mm,
explosion.
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
just take a minute to say thank you so much.
Of
It was
course.
beautiful to be with both of you. I've actually been finished
Thank
for a
you.
little bit, so thank you
Do you want
for
to show me
um,
your final result before you
sure,
go?
sure. I just didn't want to interrupt your
Ooh,
um
that's
Oh,
lovely.
that's beautiful.
You used the
yeah.
metallic paint, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're metallic colored pencils. So
That's
this one
amazing.
is actually like a little
pretty.
bit of a lavender metallic. You can't, it looks kind of silver, I think, but and I had to
Yeah,
throw some gold in there.
It
So
looks beautiful and it's very
looks good. Yeah.
reflective, which is lovely.
yeah, thank you. It was wonderful. And I will studiously do my homework. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. It
So
was so nice
two
to be with
things
both.
before you guys go. If you
Okay.
end up having vivid dreams over the next 48 hours, do not get concerned. You've done a lot of work. Please, for the rest of the day, at least today, hydrate really well. You've done a lot of
Mhm.
work in your brain, and there's a lot of neural connections that are firing. And if you don't drink enough water, you can get headaches, you can get dizziness. I don't want that side effect. So please make sure you hydrate. And in the meantime, if there's anything you need between now and next week, you know where to find me.
Thank
Mm,
you so much, Mary.
thank
And thank you,
My
you.
Mary.
pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you, Jessica, as well. Thank you, Mary.
Anytime.
This
Bye.
was a fun class. Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
See you next week.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
want to say though, next week, I am probably going to be traveling.
Okay.
So there will be a recording you'll send, right? In
Yes.
case I missed the class and
I will
then I can.
send, I will always record the sessions. I will send them the next day. Because it
Okay,
takes,
sure.
especially
Yeah.
on my fossil computer, it takes
Uh-huh.
it sometimes 10 hours just to process the video. Then I'll throw that
Hmm.
into YouTube and I'll send you the unlisted link. So you guys in
Okay.
class are the only people who have access to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much again.
My
It
pleasure. Have
was
a good week.
nice doing this class with you.
Amazing. It's
Thank you.
nice to put a face to the name because you and I had communicated by email. So I'm really glad
Yeah,
you're getting what
yeah.
you wanted out of this content, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what unfolds. That's
Amazing.
my main reason for being here. Is like
Amazing.
whatever unfolds is going to be perfect. All
Amen.
right.
Let's see what
Thank
happens
you.
next week. Have a good one.
Yeah. All right, you too. Thanks. Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.